So I'd like to welcome everyone to the Mountain View Voice's first virtual City Council Candidate Forum. I'm Andrea Gemmett, the editor of The Voice, and joining me is Assistant Editor Kevin Forestieri and our new City Beat reporter, Malia Martin. We're pleased to have the participation of all 5 candidates competing for 3 seats up for election on the November 8th ballot. They're incumbents Allison Hicks, Ellen Kamei, and Lucas Ramirez, who are all seeking second 4-year terms, and challengers Justin Cohen and Li Zhang, both of whom work at Tesla. The mission of The Voice is to provide accurate and insightful information to the community so that you can make up your minds about the issues impacting your lives. In this forum, we aim to give you an opportunity to hear directly from candidates on key issues that will help you decide who would best represent your views on the City Council. A number of the questions we'll be asking tonight came from the many Voice readers who responded to our emails and surveys, asking them what they think are the biggest issues facing the city. We really appreciate their participation and thoughtful contributions. In order to keep things moving along, we'll have a time limit for responses, and we'll ask the candidates to wait until they're called upon to answer each question. Hopefully you can all see a timer on your screen, which indicates how much time has been allotted to each question. We're going to mix it up a bit between short answer, quick questions with 15-second responses and longer form answers of 1 minute or 45 seconds. I'd like to start tonight's forum by asking each candidate to briefly introduce themselves before getting into the questions. We're going to start off in alphabetical order. So I'd like to hear first from Justin Cohen.
Hey, nice to meet you guys. I'm Justin Cohen, and I'm running for City Council of Mountain View. I am running under an unconventional approach that is referred to as direct democracy. It is, I know it's kind of coming out of left field, but I hope to explain what it is I stand for and what I'm really trying to do. In a nutshell, I'm trying to give the people of Mountain View like a direct voice in their government in the most direct way I know how. Essentially, I'm making a website where you can, like the residents of Mountain View can individually vote on each topic that the City Council decides on. And I'm hoping that the people of Mountain View can use that to directly voice how they feel about each specific topic. And I think this is a good way to run our government. So happy to explain more about that as we go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. I'd like to hear next from Allison Hicks.
Hi, I am Allison Hicks, and I'm currently the Vice Mayor of Mountain View. I've lived in Mountain View for over 20 years and raised my 2 children here and sent them to our public schools. I ran for City Council 4 years ago because clearly Mountain View is growing, and I want that growth to be good growth. I have a master's in city planning from UC Berkeley, and I've helped plan affordable housing, green schoolyards, walkable streets, and revitalized downtowns. I have experience planning the kinds of things we want for our city. Now, the past 4 years on council have been difficult. I'm proud of our accomplishments, though. We've given federal ARPA funds to help keep our most vulnerable residents housed during the pandemic. We've created safe parking for vehicle residences and created a popular car-free downtown. But the pandemic has interrupted the work that I've really wanted to do. We need better safe bike routes to school, more parks, tree canopy, and more affordable housing, and basically more infrastructure as we grow. I chair the council's sustainability committee, and I'm really concerned about the Earth's rising temperatures. Our committee used to meet infrequently. Now we meet multiple times per year to plan practical yet ambitious steps to fight the climate crisis, including home and vehicle electrification and biodiversity. In conclusion, I ask for your vote on November 8th so that I can continue to make our city more livable, our housing more affordable, and our environment more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. Let's hear from Ellen Kamei next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ellen Kamei. I am a current council member, former mayor, and environmental planning commissioner for the city of Mountain View. Over the last 4 years, I've worked on COVID-19 relief efforts and programs, supported our local small businesses, created public and private partnerships to address our housing needs, and supported the most vulnerable in our community. I'm running for re-election to continue to work with our residents, the city, and staff to create a Mountain View that is a diverse community for all. I'm a third-generation Mountain View resident, the daughter of a Chinese and Puerto Rican American mother and Japanese American father. I've been a public servant the last 15 years working at every level of government, and I'm passionate about youth and civic engagement, mental health services, and social equity. I'm a former educator and community volunteer and look forward to the discussion tonight.
Thank you so much, Ellen. Next, we'll hear an opening statement from Lucas Ramirez.
Good evening, everyone. Lucas Ramirez. I have the great honor to serve as the mayor of Mountain View this year. Like Councilmember Kamei, I come from a multi-generational family here in Mountain View. My great-grandparents and my grandparents on my mom's side moved here in the 1940s, and on my dad's side in the 1960s. And I've had, I think, great opportunity to benefit immensely from everything that Mountain View has to offer. And I ran in 2016 and then in 2018 on a housing platform, primarily because what we've seen is the erosion of our socioeconomic diversity. People with backgrounds like mine are increasingly unable to afford Mountain View and benefit from the same opportunities I did. And I'm hoping to continue the work that the council has started in addressing these inequities and these challenges. And also look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. Finally, we'll have an opening statement from Li Zhang. You're muted.
Start over again. My name is Li Zhang. I'm the new face for the November Mountain View council election. Vote for me if you would like to see changes and new perspective from the current council. I would like to run for city council mainly because I want to bring the balanced approach for the rapid growth of building housing in our city. I will gradually illustrated my concerns and my points of improvement, but here I first want to introduce myself to the audience here. I moved to Mountain View in 2001 after graduating from UC San Diego at a PhD in chemistry. And I really fell in love with the city for its diversity, progressive, and high quality of life. My husband is a teacher and a longtime member of Sierra Club and Autobahn Society. And our son is a Mountain View High School student. I've been working in the tech and science sectors for most of my career and being involved in community service. Currently, I'm an active community leader and volunteer with UC San Diego Regional Alumni Club, Mountain View High School, and my son's Boy Scout troop volunteer. As a graduate of the City of Mountain View's first Chinese Civic Leadership Academy, I was inspired to run for City Council to bring a fresh perspective to the decision-making process.
Thank you so much, Lee. All right, now we're going to get into the questions. Our first question will be a 45-second response time, and we're going to mix up the order so we'll start this time with Allison, and here's the question. Several of our readers pointed to the tragic death of a student biking to Graham Middle School this spring and wanted us to ask about pedestrian and bicycle safety. Is the city doing enough to improve safety at dangerous intersections? And if not, what would you do differently? Allison, you're up.
Thank you. Had to unmute. Yes, so this is certainly a question that's been top of mind when I go to ice cream socials and talk to people one-on-one. I would say it's one of the main questions that people bring up. Are we doing enough? No, of course not. Since we've lost a child to a bicycle incident, there's more that we have to do. Now, we have hired additional staff in the area of safe routes to school. But I believe that Mountain View is a model for a number of things, but in terms of safe routes to school, we have some neighbors that we could learn some best practices from. And I've been talking to our city manager and to our staff about learning from our neighbors and incorporating a lot of the things they do to make our safe routes to school yet safer.
Thank you. I lost my mute button too for a second there. All right, next I'd like to hear from Ellen on the same question, which I'll repeat just so you know what it is. Is the city doing enough to improve safety at dangerous intersections? And if not, what would you do differently?
Well, I think this is an area of improvement for the city. I am on the council transportation subcommittee, and one of the things we've been trying to prioritize is moving to alternative modes of transportation, moving away from being so car-centric. And council did adopt our Vision Zero plan in 2019, and really feel like the policies that we're trying to implement there need a little bit more refining. And what we've been able to do related to our safe routes to school, as the vice mayor mentioned, is we've done a community outreach meeting to get direct input on how we can improve and actually create routes that children will use.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear next from Lucas.
Thank you. I feel similarly to my colleagues. We have some strong plans, and I think it's just a matter of implementation. So the El Camino Real streetscape plan, for instance, includes significant improvements for bicycle pedestrian safety, and we're just waiting for Caltrans to begin the resurfacing project next year to implement it. The council approved or expanded a California Street Complete Streets project from one block to the segment from Showers to Shoreline. And now it's just a matter of implementation. The Shoreline reversible bus lane includes protected bike lanes and intersections. We just need to implement it. So we have a lot in the pipeline. I think we just need to prioritize delivery. Thank you. Thank
you. All right, same question to Lee. And we did get a comment from some people that they had trouble hearing you. You were a bit muffled on your introductory remarks. So if you could try and speak up a little bit. Same question, is the city doing enough to improve safety at dangerous intersections, and what would you do differently?
I'm not really sure it's doing enough. I think the progress is really slow. Can you hear me more clearly now?
It's still a little muffled on my end.
Is it possible that your microphone is covered, Lee, on your phone? Try picking it up, maybe. That's much better, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
okay,
perfect.
Sorry. I understand our city has a lot of planning going on with the bicycle safeties, but the progress is really slow from my perspective. If I were elected, I would like to see more progress. I understand next year the El Camino, the state road is up for maintenance and upgrade. We would like to work with the respective parties and to do more work on that main road, as well as the one the parallel road on California Street.
Thank you. All right. And last, we'll hear from Justin on the same question.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of agrees who we would want safer roads for biking. I think it'd be hard pressed to find someone that's saying that we're not doing enough. like something that I would do is I would consult the community about how specifically do we want to actually implement safer bike lanes and where should they be and how wide should they be. Like we can consult experts on like what the actual best way to do it is and come up with a set of options. And then we could let the community speak for themselves of like where they actually want the bike lanes. And I think that's something that my type of platform would help organize the voices of the community really well to speak on that.
Thank you. All right, our next question is going to be another 45-second response time. It will start with Ellen. And the question is, the Mountain View City Council has a reputation for collegiality. How important do you think it is for the council to try and reach a consensus on thorny issues rather than settle for a split vote?
Great, thank you. Well, I am very grateful that Mountain View has that reputation. I think it's of the utmost importance, especially as we've been navigating the pandemic and having to legislate via Zoom. Who would have thought we would move to a virtual dais? And so I think being able to have that's really important. Although I have two colleagues that I've never sat on a dais in person yet with, but looking forward to doing that sometime soon. I think in terms of consensus, while it's important, and my colleagues and I work to reach it, I think there's also times when we need to agree to disagree, and that might just be a difference of perspective. But at the end of the day, we're all colleagues trying to do the best for the city of Mountain View.
All right, thank you. Next up on the same question is Lucas.
Thank you, and I completely agree with Councilmember Kamei. I think we should strive to find consensus where possible. I think it helps with the staying power of a given decision. If we're unanimous, it's far more likely to remain in place across council. If there's a divided vote, a future council may want to revisit a particular issue, but that's not always possible. It's not always possible to get unanimity. And so I think more important than a unanimous vote is a collegial and cordial process to get to a conclusion that we can then implement. Sometimes that's done on a 4-3 vote, and that's okay. We have to move on and work together on the next issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up is Lee on the same question.
Do you mind to repeat your question to me?
Absolutely. The City Council has a reputation for collegiality. How important do you think it is for the council to try to reach a consensus on thorny issues rather than settle for a split vote?
I have a slightly different opinion on this. That's why I want to bring a fresh perspective to the council. I do believe sometimes from my observation of the council meetings some council members are not especially expressing their opinions due to they know they're not the majority of the votes. I believe for democracies everyone should have take their votes seriously. If I'm being elected, I will stand by what I believe, the majority, the people, the residents who I will represent, the residents who their voices want to be heard. I'm now going to be just voting with the majority just because I don't think it really matters where I vote. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Next up to answer the question is Justin.
Yeah, I would say it's interesting. If it's just one person outlier, I don't think that's that big of a deal. If it's like a closer to 50-50, depending on the severity of it, I think like continuing the dialogue to like convince the people who disagree with you to agree with you based off evidence. I think just going through that process of exchanging ideas and trying to understand why people are like voting and supporting the things they do, as long as that process is happening and like people's voices are being expressed, then if it is split, as long as there's been good dialogue on the topic, I wouldn't object to if it's like a split vote, like the majority still wins.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then let's hear from Allison.
I'm going to largely agree with my fellow council members on this one. I really value collegiality, and I think we're in some ways talking about possibly two different things. There's collegiality and sort of valuing each other and each other's opinions, and politeness. And that's something that I really think is important. I've seen other councils break down for not having that, and kind of break down bitterly. And we have never done that, and I really value that. At the same time, we're not always going to agree on all issues, and there will be split votes from time to time, and that's the nature of politics.
Great, thank you very much. All right, our next question is a little bit of a bigger issue, so that's going to have a 1-minute time limit for responses. And the first person who will be answering it is Lucas. So here's the question. In the coming years, Mountain View's housing stock is poised to grow significantly, thanks mainly to large-scale development projects. How will you ensure Mountain View's housing growth won't impact the quality of life for current residents? So we can get the timer clock up to 1 minute. We'll start with Lucas.
Minute 45, very generous.
Uh-oh, there we go. All right, you're on.
I appreciate the question. I think it's an important one given the work that we're doing on our housing element. And I think Mountain View is very fortunate to be able to accommodate most of the growth we're required to plan for under state law with the existing residential capacity in our general plan. And the advantage of that is the general plan is a comprehensive document and includes an evaluation of transportation, utilities, parks and open space, all of the services and amenities that we need to accommodate the growth that we're planning for. And if we contrast that with other cities like Palo Alto and Los Altos, which will, I think, struggle to do that work concurrently with planning for housing growth, we're in a much better situation. That's not to say that it's going to be easy to do, but at least we've got a framework in our general plan. We're using residential capacity in our change areas, and we have planning within our precise plans to address those additional impacts and needs.
Thank you. All right, the next person to respond will be Lee. Do you need me to repeat the question? Let's see, Lee, are you there?
Sorry.
There we go.
Yes,
Okay.
If I'm elected, I want to ensure sufficient infrastructure and services to maintain our high quality of life while we expand housing opportunities for everyone. I would like the city to provide ample park space in all neighborhoods, focusing on areas that are park deficient and create biodiversity throughout the city to support wildlife. I would like the city to analyze service needs and resources in light of anticipated city growth, especially in public safety, public works, neighborhood, recreational programs, and water. I would like city to maintain the city's excellent financial position, its AAA credit rating, diversified revenue streams, strong reserves, and wise investments. I would like city to identify additional funding sources to increase affordable housing units and partner with others to increase home ownership opportunities. I would like city to strengthen the partnership with our schools to plan and respond to growth.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're out of time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, next to respond is Justin.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question. Like in terms of growing the availability of housing, I think it's clear that if you're going to put a very big apartment building right by a community's housing, there's pros and cons. Like you get more money and revenue you kind of lose a sense of community and traffic and parking and things like that. So I think it's really best to ask the people who would be affected by this decision, do you want this? This is like when I was getting the signatures, somebody asked me this question. It's really interesting because we have to kind of ask ourselves, do we want to write policy that like benefits and works in the favor of the people that currently are residents of Mountain View? Or do we like look into the future and think about the potential new residents of Mountain View? That's actually like really interesting thing to think about of like what the right thing to do is. I personally think we should think about the people who currently live here.
Great, thank you. Allison, you're up next.
Thank you. Yes, this is a question that's near and dear to my heart. And one of the reasons I ran for office, I would say the main reason I ran for office 4 years ago, I believe that as we grow, we need to, and we can, carefully plan for the infrastructure that would go along with that, mostly housing and office growth. Those would be all the things that we talk to residents about all the time. It would be parks, growing schools, walkable streets and safe bike paths, tree canopy, and so forth. I would say about 30 years ago, when our downtown was redeveloped, we did that. We had a pact between developers and residents, and we got things like our new civic center, new library, cafe tables, and I think we can do that again. We can have a pact between developers and residents and get the things that we both want out of our growth.
Thank you. All right, next up is Ellen.
Well, in my lifetime, Mountain View has grown and changed so much. And I also feel like this was one of the issues that spearheaded my run for office 4 years ago in terms of creating more opportunities for those who currently live here, as well as those who will live here in the future. And it does come down to quality of life. I see this as an opportunity for direct input from our residents and community. And we've been able to do that and do really innovative planning. In our East Wisman precise plan area, which is called out in our general plan, we have a jobs housing linkage program, which prioritizes housing as we're changing. We're also looking at 2 large master planning opportunities, one in North Bayshore and one in the East Wisman area, where we can talk about more parks and open space, bike, school, and pedestrian infrastructure, and create some predictability on how our city will change.
Thank you. All right, our next question is going to be a 45-second response time. And Lee is going to be the first person to respond in our rotation. The question is this: the COVID-19 pandemic has had a deep impact on many businesses. What would you say currently is the biggest challenge facing Mountain View's small business community, and how would you help fix it? Lee, the floor is yours.
Yes, I do see, for example, for the downtown area, so the business still 75% business are still doing worse than prior to COVID, and the vacancy rate is 15%. I do believe prior to COVID and after COVID, the model of business have changed. We are using a lot of delivery, right? We don't go out as much as we do. I think we should start adapting the new kind of business. Say some business only operate in downtown in the evening. So we could possibly have like maybe a Zumba place in the same nightclub during the day. And so we can have the business share space and maybe bring some new business of, new type of business into the old town, just make some variety and diversity. That would be my recommendation.
All right, thank you. We'll hear from Justin next.
Yeah, COVID was quite the bummer. I like to kind of think if businesses are not doing as well as they were before the pandemic, I think the trajectory is getting better by the months go by. but I would be happy to see what the small business owners have in mind of how they can fix this issue that COVID has imposed. And I'm a big fan of like crowdsourcing ideas of how to address that issue. Like I think people are still conscious of the virus, and I'd be interested to hear creative ways of how to make people feel safer in Mountain View from coronavirus, and that we should do what people want to do. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Allison next.
Thank you. Yes, small businesses are one of the things that make city living great. And I'm deeply concerned about the vacancies that we have that have arisen since the pandemic. We do have an economic vitality strategy and staff to work along with that strategy to address the business needs. But when I look at that strategy, my concern is that it's not place-based enough. I know other cities that have thriving restaurants and retail, neighborhood serving retail, look carefully and differently at each place. You know, is it your downtown? Is it a shopping center? And I think that we can make tweaks in our strategy so that it's much more effective by making it place-based. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Ellen.
Well, as a daughter and granddaughter of small business owners that had a nursery in Mountain View, I'm always thinking about how we support our small businesses. And I think one of the great things we were able to do during the pandemic is the city and the Mountain View Chamber of Commerce worked hand in hand together. We heard directly that when we were doing assistance, people actually didn't want loans, they actually wanted grants. I think that was great. We also have our downtown committee who has been working with us in our economic vitality survey as the strategy, as the vice mayor mentioned. We also have our small business action plan that will be coming to council shortly to figure out how we can best be supportive.
Thank you. And finally, on the same question, we'll hear from Lucas.
Thank you. There are many different challenges small businesses are contending with, and it's difficult to say which one is the most important or priority concern. But challenges with the cost of living make it difficult for small businesses to attract talented employees. The supply constraints, supply chain constraints makes it difficult to get what they need at affordable rates or in the timeliness that they will need it. Challenges with staff capacity make permitting difficult, and there really aren't easy solutions for any of these. But as my colleagues had mentioned, the economic vitality strategy, I think, will give us a framework to work with as we address these challenges.
Thank you. All right, for this next question, we're going to reset the countdown clock to 1 minute, and Justin will kick us off. So here's the question. How would you rate Mountain View's efforts to assist its homeless residents? And are there additional steps you would take?
I think we can do better. Homelessness is a terrible problem. If we have any homeless people in Mountain View, we're not doing enough. I think like we as a community need to decide, how do we treat these less fortunate people? I think it's a tough problem. Like there's homelessness for a variety of reasons, and there's not one silver bullet answer. But I think there's like multiple different ways of tackling the problem, of providing like cheaper housing, like opportunities for these people to get employment. And I think it is kind of the place of like a local government to really step in and try to help these people within means. And I would be interested to see how the community as a whole, I'd like to think that all residents in Mountain View would want to see less homelessness. So I think that's a problem that we can all tackle together. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Same question now to Allison.
So the question is, how would I rate our response to homelessness? I feel like I would give it 2 different ratings. First, to compliment ourselves, I feel like compared to some of our surrounding cities, and I won't name names, we've done really great. And we've put together some models that I wish our surrounding cities, that I'm hopeful that our surrounding cities will copy. This is our both our safe parking lots, our Life Moves transitional housing, and our affordable housing. Compared to what we need to do, I would give us much lower grades. And I look forward to our upcoming affordable housing strategy, where we have all sorts of new ideas, including working with a sort of affordable housing mega bond region-wide, because I really think that's the only way we can address this problem, with large amounts of money and regionally.
Thank you. All right, next up on the same question is Ellen.
I'm not sure a work in progress is a letter grade, but that's what I would give the city of Mountain View. We as a council reaffirm our priorities annually, and one thing we've said is that Mountain View is a community for all. And I think several of the programs that the Vice Mayor mentioned are ways we've been trying to exhibit that. But we've seen the great need and the great, I think, growing divide that the COVID-19 pandemic kind of exacerbated. But something that's really exciting is we've been able to use the American Rescue Plan funds from the federal government to create really innovative programs to help lift our most vulnerable. Today, we just launched Elevate Mountain View. So I think that in partnership with our safe parking program, the Project Home Key Life Moves, as well as the potential Crestview Hotel, trying to use Santa Clara County Measure A funding, affordable housing funding, will be critical to help our unhoused community.
Thank you. Next up on the question is Lucas.
Thank you for the question. And it's nice to follow my colleagues because they've referenced a lot of the incredible work that the council has done over the past couple of years, especially the American Rescue Plan Act in particular, helped the council, I think, seriously prevent homelessness insofar as there were many residents who, having lost their income and their jobs, were not able to pay rent or pay for basic necessities. And because of the investment of funding, as Councilmember Kamei had shared, in direct financial assistance and in rent relief, the homeless population didn't swell the way that I think it had been projected to as we started to understand the impact of the pandemic. And then also since then, the interim housing solutions, safe parking, the Life Moves project, and then the permanent supportive housing in the pipeline, I think will go a long way in addressing the homelessness crisis.
Thank you. All right, and finally on the same question, over to Lee.
Yes, I believe Mountain View is a very compassionate regarding to develop good programs to help homeless people transition to better life. As the previous candidates mentioned, that we had partnered with state for the Project Home Key program. We have provided safe parking lots for people living in vehicles to have a place to stay while they get counseling on how to transition to more stable housing situation. But I do believe homeless is a regional problem. Even though Mountain View set a good example, but we needs to really encourage other cities to follow our lead. I do have some recommendation or suggestion. I think once people become homeless, whatever program we have, as far as I understood, it takes at least 18 months to get these people some kind of shelter. Sometimes it takes up to 5 years to get off the street. Okay. I think we should more focus on homeless prevention program. Sorry.
That's okay, thanks. That's the 1 minute time limit. All right, thank you all for your thoughtful responses on that one. Next, we're going to reset the timer clock to 45 seconds. And we'll start with Allison for this question. And the question is, I don't know what the timer clock looks like on your screens, but it seems to be deciding where it is. There we go. Okay. All right, here's our question, starting off with Allison. What should the city council's role be in lowering Mountain View's greenhouse gas emissions?
So I believe that cities can play a very important role. And I believe that we have thus far. The kind of great leap forward that we made was with Silicon Valley Clean Energy that allowed us to use renewable energy and cut our carbon footprint. And I believe that the next big step is going to be electrifying our homes. We've already enacted an electric reach code for new homes. And I believe using the Inflation Reduction Act and other money for incentives as our non-electric appliances and so forth die out, we can replace them with electric appliances and solar panels. And that's one of, 45 seconds is too short, but that's one of many things you can do at the city level.
Thank you. I know there's a lot to say on this topic. All right, next up is Ellen.
Well, I think that the Vice Mayor mentioned quite a few. I do believe that the city plays a role, and it's been something our community has emphatically and enthusiastically said that they support. When we had our environmental sustainability task force to reconvene, we got 36 recommendations. Over 100 people met for months, and we've been working to implement their ideas and doing classes in terms of how to cook with electric, but the city has also prioritized it in terms of hiring our chief sustainability officer as well as a team. And I think that will help reduce our greenhouse gas emission and the goals set forth by our environmental sustainability task force recommendations.
Thank you. All right, next up in our rotation is Lucas.
Thank you. And I think the only addition I would include beyond the REACH code and electrification of buildings, which certainly are important, is the great power that cities have. Land use authority allows us to plan in such a way that we can provide people opportunities to live near where they work to reduce commute times, which will go a long way in addressing greenhouse gas emissions produced by transportation. That's probably the most challenging source for us to address, short of infusing the system with cash to help people acquire, an electric vehicle and install electric vehicle charging infrastructure. But the land use, I think, will go a long way in making sure that people can get around without needing to increase greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next person to answer this question will be Lee.
I think the previous candidates has illustrated quite a few points, and what I can add is I think we can decarbonize and increase efficiency of city facilities, fleet, and equipment. Those can dramatically reduce the carbon footprints, and we can expand alternative transportation options by increasing road safety for pedestrians and cyclists, completing a network of active transportation infrastructure, and strengthening transient access through regional collaboration. In addition, I believe we can continue work on capital projects addressing sea level rise, some in collaboration with neighboring cities. Of course, and the biggest incentive from the Inflation Reduction Act, it's something we definitely should take advantage in the next 10 years.
Thank you. And finally, on this same question, we'll hear from Justin.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert in the best way to decrease the carbon emissions of a city. I think where I stand on all these types of issues is we should benefit from the aggregate intelligence of the community to decide the best way to handle what is a tough problem for everybody on this planet. There are many ideas of how to do this. We can incentivize more green technologies, like electric buildings and whatnot, financially incentivize people to do that. There's all sorts of things we can do, and it's up to the community to decide ourselves what do we want to actually adapt and implement into our community. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Justin. Okay, for this next section, we're going to move into our rapid fire short response quick questions. So this is a 15-second response time. Feel free to just keep it to a sentence or a word or two. And I'm going to turn it over to assistant editor Kevin Forestieri to ask these questions.
Thanks, Andrea. And thank you everybody for showing up tonight. Really appreciate it. Still stuck in Zoom instead of in person, but we'll get there eventually. As Andrea mentioned, these are shorter answer questions. They're going to be 15-second responses. That's more than a word or two, but if a word or two is good enough for you, that's fine. We're calling them rapid fire questions because that sounds more dramatic. So the first question, and we're going to be starting, if I recall, with Ellen. Our first question is, what's one thing the city is doing really well?
I think that one thing the city is doing really well is prioritizing the top needs of our residents.
Great, thank you. Next up is Lucas Ramirez. We'll just call you Lucas.
That works for me. We're, I think, responding to the pandemic very well, and I'm particularly encouraged by our recovery efforts.
Great. Okay, next is Lee.
The city is doing really well with equity and inclusion. I have firsthand experience. I attended First Leadership Academy, Chinese Leadership Academy. That's one of the reasons why I'm here running for city council.
Great, great. Next is Justin.
Not much of a back patter. Like, I'm sure we're doing a lot of things well. We can do everything better.
Okay. And finally, Allison.
Well, I'll go with all of the above. I liked the answers, but I'm going to give the answer that I have heard most often, I think, via email, is that people really like the car-free downtown as a public place. I think it has a ways to go, but I think it's a great start.
Great. Great, everybody. And thank you for sticking to the 15-second rapid fire time. The next question is the inverse, and we're going to be starting with Lucas. What's one thing you think the city is doing poorly?
I'll say needs improvement, development services. I think with constraining zoning and development standards and staff capacity limits, it's very difficult for us to implement our land use goals.
Okay. Next up is Lee.
Keep up the infrastructure, build the infrastructure, and reduce traffic congestion with increasing populations in the city.
Okay. Next will be Justin.
We need to fundamentally be doing a better job of getting the people's opinion who live in Mountain View as the actual rules in our government. That's something I'm really passionate about.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we have Allison.
I'm
Oh
going to
no,
go with,
sorry, one more after you. Apologies.
okay. I'm going to go with trees and parks. And again, that's one that I get a lot of feedback on, and I think people are right. We lost recently through the school fencing, we lost a lot of our neighborhood parks, and we've been losing a lot of our heritage trees, and there are ways to get those back.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, Ellen.
Thanks for remembering me, Kevin. I'll say communications. The city is changing and growing at a really rapid pace. There's lots of things going on, and we need to make sure that we are letting people know with better engagement.
Okay, and this time I will endeavor not to forget someone momentarily. The next question here, and Lee, you'll be starting us off. Which neighborhood do you think is most in need of a new public park?
Oh, sorry, Montaloma neighborhood.
Okay,
they have to
you.
use the school yard as their park.
Okay, thank you. Next is going to be Justin.
I'll go on the website, make a list of all the neighborhoods, and whichever one gets the most votes, like whichever the people think each neighborhood needs like a new park, that's the one. The people should decide that sort of thing. not me.
Thank you. Next will be Allison.
Yes, I'll go with Montaloma also, because they've, with the school fencing, they've lost their big neighborhood park. Terabella might be a close second, and I think we're looking at purchasing them one.
Okay, thank you. Next is Ellen.
Yes, I was going to say Montaloma and Terabella, the San Verone area.
Thank you. And then finally, let's hear from Lucas.
My answer is no different. Montaloma and Terabella, certainly, because there's a tremendous amount of housing growth in the area.
Okay. Maybe next time we'll ask what neighborhood other than Montaloma should deserve a new public park, because that seems to be the prevailing answer. The final rapid fire question, at least for now, before I hand it back to Andrea, and we will start with Justin here, is would you support allowing retail marijuana businesses to open a storefront in Mountain View?
Tough question. If that's what the people want, that is what the people want. If that's a simple, everybody go, do you want this? Do you want a recreational marijuana store in Mountain View? Yes or no? And I'll, whatever that is.
Okay, thank you. Next is Allison.
I think we debated this recently and voted on it, so I'm really not for bringing it back to the table again. In addition, with delivery is now really a predominant way of purchasing all sorts of things. So I think that should take care of it in some ways.
Okay, thank you. Next is Ellen.
Yeah, the city has delivery, and I believe that it was supposed to come back to council as an item if we wanted to explore more than just delivery.
Okay, thank you. Next is Lucas.
Similarly, as the vice mayor said, we debated this in 2019. Majority of the council is comfortable with delivery only, and I'm not interested in revisiting this issue.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we have Lee.
Yeah, no need to revisit. It has been already decided. Thank you.
Great. Okay, that's our first round. We may have time for another one. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Andrea for the long form questions.
Thank you so much, Kevin. All right, our next long form question is going to be 45 seconds on the countdown clock, and it's going to start off with Allison. This question is there any part of the city you think should be off limits to affordable housing development? Explain why or why not.
I actually don't believe that any part of the city should be absolutely off limits. And I'm not sure why we would put it off limits. We have all sorts of kinds of affordable housing. We have 100% affordable housing developed by nonprofit developers. And we also have inclusionary housing in which a developer will include usually 15% of the units as affordable. And I'm not sure why we would say that any particular area would not allow either of those two types of housing. In fact, I've never been asked that question before. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. Next to tackle this question will be Ellen.
Thanks. Well, we had our Human Relations Commission recently did the history of housing in Mountain View. I think one of the topics of discussion was talking about zoning and the history of zoning in our city. And if we are a community for all, I think it's really important for us to look at everything. It doesn't mean that necessarily development will happen there. But as we're looking to be creative, to be innovative, make sure that people are housed, not displaced, we're thinking about the future. We've really tried as much as possible, I think, to make sure that we are funding all different types of variety at different price points, because that's what it's going to take to make sure that we're an inclusive community.
Great. Thank you, Ellen. Next up is Lucas.
I agree with Vice Mayor Hicks and Councilmember Kamei. I don't think there's any area of the city that should be exempt. And in fact, state law now obligates us to affirmatively further fair housing, which means we have to include affordable housing in areas that have high-performing schools and are deemed resource rich. And we've also built interim housing like the Life Moves Project Home Key community and industrial areas, so off of Leghorn and San Antonio, where historically we haven't included housing. So I think the long and short suggests that housing ought to go, affordable housing ought to go anywhere where it can be reasonably accommodated.
Thank you. All right, next up for this question is Lee.
And I have two areas where I would like to see the city heading in a different direction. First is the current council majority supportive of a significant upzoning of R3 zoning district across the city. This will increase the density in many, many neighborhoods, which will decrease the quality of life for residents. I'm not supportive of this. I would rather open up the general plan that was updated in 2012 and to revisit. The second one is the current council majority is supportive of rezoning some shopping centers to allow housing. I'm not supportive of this either. There's not a need to rezone these centers in order to accommodate the city's arena. These centers are important to the quality of life of the residents. We need to make sure they continue in their present form. I have concerns that with, okay,
We hit
I'm
your
done.
time limit, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I made my point.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, let's hear from Justin.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why some places would be exempt. I'm not exactly sure how you decide that, but like the question was, should some places be exempt from getting affordable housing? Like the way I would kind of tackle this issue of where should the affordable housing be is I would like let the people who are developing the affordable housing like see like where the like options for doing so are, and let like a popular vote decide where affordable housing should be. I'm not exactly too keen on. I think like the specifics of the question is like the zoning of shopping and stuff. Wrong. Like I'm not too keen on that specific one.
Okay, thank you. All right, time for our next question. This one is going to be, you'll get a whole minute to respond to this one. When it was on the ballot in 2020, were you in favor of Measure C, the overnight parking ban forbidding large vehicles such as RVs from parking on most city streets? Please explain the reasons behind your position. And for this one, we'll start with Ellen.
Thank you. The council has been working on this issue, the prior council, the many iterations. I think that one of the most important things about Measure C was getting direct voter input, which they provided. So I think after much debate on our council, I supported putting it to the voters. And I think that they let us know with over 60% their point of view. But I also feel like the city has worked to create safe parking programs for those residents who are unstably housed. And one of the things I'm proud that the city has done is work to understand that people need accessory and auxiliary vehicles, that they live in their oversized vehicles and need to get to school and to work. And we've made those changes.
All right, thank you so much. Next up for this question is Lucas.
Thank you. I think it's a matter of public record. I voted against the narrow streets ordinance when it went before the council in 2019. But as Councilmember Kamei said, it went through a referendum process and 57% of the voters chose to uphold the ordinance. And I think it's the responsibility of the council to implement the will of the voters. One of the reasons I was concerned about the narrow streets ordinance is I felt it would simply shift the challenge from one part of the city to another. And I think that's what's going to happen once we begin enforcing it. We've already started to hear from the business community in particular, and residents near areas that are likely to be impacted about concerns related to inhabited vehicles. I think the better solution is to try and find ways to get people out of homelessness and into permanent supportive housing or interim solutions like safe parking. But I do think it's the responsibility of the council to implement the will of the voters.
Thank you. All right, next up is Lee.
I have to be honest with this answer. When I didn't vote it, I voted allow the RVs to park on the narrow street. Due to my prior personal experience with some homeless people, I deeply was troubled with people who had nowhere to go. I didn't fully understand, the consequence of the residents around the RVs at the time. I think once I started researching the issue, I realized that the decision made in the past was most likely it's protective of the residents around the RV. So I agree with the decision made by the city. Going forward, I do believe that we have to work with the county and the other city, because we've already set a very good example for Santa Clara County, where our city has the largest safe parking program. We have 101 parking space. None of the other vicinity city even have any numbers close to what we accommodate.
That's time.
Mhm. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, next is Justin.
All right, so the RVs, everybody's fired up about the RVs. People are feel really passionate about this. The legislation that was proposed, section C or something, I would propose that to the people via the internet. Should we enact this piece of policy or not? And what will end up happening is the people who have RVs in front of their homes will voice their vote online, and we'll let the people decide. It's apparent that this is a common thing in Mountain View. Is this something that the people of Mountain View want to address legislatively? And I leave that to the people of Mountain View to decide. It's something that I think a lot of people are passionate about. It's also it's not a black and white issue. There are people in the RV, there are people too, but I can see why the people who live right outside the RVs don't like it. It's a good question for my type of platform. Thanks.
Okay, that's time. All right, next up is Allison.
Thank you for asking this really important question to our community. I've certainly talked extensively with people on both sides. And I think it's important to acknowledge that the source of the problem is that we want to be a compassionate community, particularly with those who are most vulnerable. At the same time, we can't act as the region's social service agency. So for that reason, I did support putting it to the voters. And I also voted to enact what the majority of voters said that they wanted after Measure C had passed. But I also think it's important to acknowledge that we put programs in place. I did not vote for the Narrow Streets Ordinance originally, but since I didn't vote for it, we've put programs in place such as the Safe Parking Program, the Life Moves Housing, and other programs that I think will allow us to start addressing this question, and also work with other people in the region so that other cities set up those similar model programs.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our next question. It's going to be a 45-second response time, and it comes from one of our readers. This reader says, requests to remove heritage trees are being approved far too often, irrespective of tree health. So our question to you is, do you think Mountain View's tree removal permit process should be reevaluated to offer better protection to these, as the reader puts it, these city assets? So Lucas is going to kick us off on answering this reader question.
So yes, and fortunately we have in our work plan a proposal to do just that as part of the biodiversity strategy, which I think Lee had mentioned earlier, we are also updating our heritage tree removal process, heritage tree ordinance. And I think that will give us an opportunity to think about how can we make sure that when a development proposal is under review, that the proposal itself can be modified to accommodate existing trees, in addition to other strategies to increase canopy. So I think that process will allow us to meaningfully address this community concern.
Thank you. All right, next up for answering this question is Lee.
I do agree we need some ordinance of the heritage tree, but I have an interesting suggestion. So I've sat through a lot of these council meetings recently debating whether the tree should be removed. You know, the developer will have one point of view and, you know, the residents would have a different point of view. And it's just like all contradictory to each other. So I'm just wondering if this can be a modeling exercise, at least visually showing the residents that the tree has to be removed and there's no accommodation can be made with, you know, keeping the tree and still can do whatever, you know, the around the tree. And I never seen any visual displays. So talking about dimension is very difficult to understand why they have to be removed.
That's time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up, Justin.
Kind of sound like a broken record, but I would ask the people, what should our policy be on these lovely trees? I'm not exactly sure why people are uprooting them. I assume it's to make room for development of some sort, and there's economic incentive to do that. And then you have the people who want to keep the trees there because they're really nice. Is there more people who want one thing or the other? And we should pose that to the community. That's what I got. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Justin. Next is Allison.
Yes, well, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the main comments I get from members of the public on areas that that the city needs to improve. And we do have it on our upcoming work plan to revisit our heritage tree ordinance and also to do a biodiversity strategy. So we're basing the city's growth in our biodiversity and valuing that and trees along with that more. So I think the two of those interacting together will be helpful. I also think we have to relook at our development standards so that as we develop, some of those standards will include working around trees rather than always removing them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Ellen next.
Great, thank you. Well, this is what happens when you are last, but this in particular, this item talking about heritage tree removal came up at our August 30th meeting. And I did say kind of, this is why we have these on the work plan. We have our biodiversity plan. We'll be redoing our heritage tree removal process because we're seeing that our current planning processes don't fit with where we want to go. And so I think that that's how we'll be able to handle it on the policy side. But we also have great collaborations with our nonprofit partners. We have Canopy, Green Spaces Mountain View. We have our Parks and Rec Committee, which I think has also been working to prioritize this. So hopefully we'll be able to get to work on this.
Great, thank you so much. All right, we're going to go into another round of our quick fire questions with 15-second response times. And I'm again going to turn it over to Kevin to ask the questions.
Great, thanks. They were rapid fire questions and now they're quick fire questions. Let's keep it going. So again, we're going to go through these questions with 15-second intervals. First up will be Lee for the first question, which is, are you in favor of replacing natural gas in homes and buildings with electricity instead?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. And next will be Justin.
Yeah. Why? I mean, yeah, it seems like a good thing.
Okay, thank you. Next is going to be Allison.
Yes, I'm chair of the Council Sustainability Committee, and this is one of the main things I've put on our work plan to increase the ability of residents to run their homes on clean electricity and their cars.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Ellen.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And then finally, Lucas.
Very similarly, yes.
Okay, we have consensus. Let's move on to the next question. And the first answer will be from Justin. This question is, do you support the city's rent control ordinance known as the Community Stabilization and Fair Rent Act?
Interesting. I rent. It's pretty expensive to rent in Mountain View. Again, there's two sides to everything, and I would leave it to the people to decide, do we want to enact this rent control policy?
Okay, thank you. Next up is Allison.
Yes, and I would also say during our last Measure D, I think approximately 70% of our voters also affirmed it.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Ellen.
We're looking to make sure that people can live and stay in Mountain View, and voters have made a decision on this as well, which is the CSFRA. So yes.
Next is Lucas.
I supported Measure V in 2016, and I continue to support the CSFRA.
Okay. And then finally, we have Lee.
Yeah, I support it.
Okay, thank you. The next question, this one will be started by Allison, is what's the most frequent complaint you hear from Mountain View residents about the city?
Oh gosh, I already answered that one. It's that we're taking too many trees down. That really is the one that I get the most email about.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, we stole your thunder by having you answer it earlier. Next is gonna be Ellen.
I would say the rate of change in the city, the density of development, as well as oversized vehicles.
Thank you. Next is Lucas.
So trees come up frequently, erosion or loss of parks and open space. Maintaining infrastructure. I think we hear about the pavement condition of El Camino very frequently as well.
Not too much you can do about that. Let's see. Lee, you're next.
Definitely maintain the quality of life every one of us worked so hard for as a resident in Mountain View.
Okay, thank you. And then we have Justin.
I'll answer this with a question. Wouldn't it be cool if we can see online like all the issues and then people like upvote on what the most important one is? That sounds like it would be helpful.
Okay. All right. And then the fourth and last of the rapid fire, quick fire, super fast questions is we'll start with Ellen this time. What do you like best about living in Mountain View?
I love that we are a community for all. I love our parks and open space. I love that we are a diverse community that has incredible small businesses.
Thank you. Next is Lucas.
I love how compassionate and engaged the residents are. It's one of the joys of serving on the council. We all care about this community. I think we have different opinions about what we should do to address these challenges, but fundamentally, we all care.
Okay, thank you. Lee?
I like Mountain View because it's very diversified as well as very dynamic. Things keep changing. I really love to live here.
Okay, thank you. Next is Justin.
Mountain View is a pretty awesome place to live. It's kind of got everything you could want.
Okay, thank you. Allison.
So some of the things I like that it's a city, a growing city with a small town feel, with friendly people and And yeah, the diversity is one of the things that I moved here for, and I hope we can maintain it.
Great. All right. Well, those are all 4 of the rapid fire questions. So thanks for that. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Andrea.
Thanks so much, Kevin. All right, we're reaching the end of our forum, so I'm glad we ended our questions on such a positive note. We're going to go into the closing statement. So each candidate is going to get 45 seconds to give some closing remarks and I guess make their last pitch to voters. And let's see if I've got my rotation correct. I believe we're going to start with Lucas on this one. So please forgive me if I've gotten that wrong. All right, we've got 45 seconds on the clock, and these are closing statements. Go ahead, Lucas.
Well, first, I want to thank The Voice for hosting this forum and giving us an opportunity to share with residents our views on a number of challenging topics. I think what I would like to emphasize is how phenomenal an experience it has been to serve with this council in particular during such a difficult time. We've talked extensively about the work that we've done over the past several years, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done. And I'm very excited, should I have the good fortune to be elected for a second term, to continue the work that we have in our work plan, which I think will go a long way in addressing many of the concerns that we've talked about tonight. We have a great team. We have a great council. I think we should be proud of the work that we've done.
Great, thank you so much. Next up with her 45-second closing statement is Lee.
If I'm elected, I will bring changes and new perspectives from the current council. I will take the balanced approach for housing development to ensure sufficient infrastructure and services to maintain the high quality of life that we will have worked so hard for. We should not redevelop, rezone shopping centers to diminish retails. And I disagree with the current council's ideas of a significant upzoning of R3 multifamily zoning area in the city, through the city. Finally, I want to accelerate the city's efforts to combat climate change and bring my values of equity and inclusion to the city council to preserve Mountain View as a vibrant and sustainable city for all. I'm currently endorsed by the Sierra Club, Mountain View firefighters, and okay, please vote for me.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is Justin.
So to the people of Mountain View, I know I'm coming out of left field with this, and all I ask is you at least kind of hear me out. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'm definitely coming at this with a new angle, maybe an exciting one. I think at the end of the day, it's something worth exploring. Like never before have we all been so connected on the internet. We do everything on our phones. Maybe it's time we start doing government on our phones too. Yeah, happy to engage with people watching, and yeah, just at least it's something to consider, and it's something different. And I genuinely think it's something good, and I'm trying to do the right thing. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Allison.
So I want to thank the residents for inviting us into their homes tonight. The only problem with a forum like this is that you don't get to talk to us afterwards. The answers are short, and I really want to give longer answers. So if you want more information on my campaign or want to ask questions, go to AllisonHicksForMV.com. And I'll close by saying I'm endorsed by the Sierra Club, California Senator Josh Becker, Supervisor Joe Simidian, multiple mayors and ex-mayors from in and around Mountain View, and many other people. So check out the website, AllisonHicksForMV.com, and do remember to vote for me on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. And then finally, we'll hear from Ellen.
Great. Well, thank you. I want to echo my thanks to The Voice and to the residents for spending their Thursday night with us. I also want to acknowledge the mayor and vice mayor. It's an honor to serve the city with the two of them. This year marks a decade that I've been serving the city of Mountain View as a commissioner, environmental planning commissioner, and council member and mayor. And we've worked really hard. I'm a third generation Mountain View resident. I'm a new full-time working mom. I'm a volunteer, and I've seen our community transform, adapt, and change firsthand. If elected to a second term, I hope that we can continue providing housing solutions for all our residents, increase our transportation and pedestrian options while targeting climate change goals and our access to parks and open space in our neighborhoods. I'm number 5 on your ballot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, especially our 5 candidates for participating in our forum. Mountain View is really fortunate to have these civic-minded citizens willing to devote their time and energy to making the city a better place. For our continuing coverage of the November 8th election, please check out our website, mv-voice.com. And if you got called away, you missed this, or you want to have someone else check it out and find out about these candidates, a recording of this forum will be available online tomorrow on the Voice's YouTube channel. You can find it at mv-voice.com/YouTube. Again, appreciate all the participation of everyone and for taking time out of a busy weeknight to be here with us. Thanks so much, everyone.